Hello friends, my name is Shivam from DevOps Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials or any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact@devopsschool.com.
So basically, if you will go by the definition provided by Git, official definition. So Git is a free and open source distributed version control system designed to handle everything. So here we will focus on these two things, right? Free, it's okay. Free we know. Open source we know. And we can discuss about what open source is, and distributed version control system. Okay, now what is the difference between free and open source when you talk about any? Just quickly we will touch upon. Free means you have the executable, you can use it, but free doesn't mean necessarily that you have the control over the code. Okay, so or you can customize the code yourself. It's like that. So that's why they have mentioned both things separately. So Git is free, number one. At the same time, Git is open source, means no charge, and also you can customize. You have the code available, you know. And then let us talk about the third term, that is distributed version control system. Okay, distributed. We will talk about this word, and then we will move to this and these two together. Okay. Now let us see the scenario, means what was happening when, how this, kind of how these version control systems are developed basically. So basically initially what was the case, that initially the case was you used to have let me make it bigger. Okay. Okay, so initially what was the case, that there was when we say initially, it means around 15 years back, right? 15 or 20 years back, what was the case, that there was you have, and still some people do, right? Completely unorganized non-version control way. So what you do that you have a code, you write a code and you zip it, and then you make changes in the code, and then you see that code updated .zip. So you create multiple zip files, sort of that, right? So it was like, this is the way that was happening when version control system was not in picture. And this is the way we do when we are not using version control system. And we want to keep the track of that, right? A kind of a. So now the third thing is, maybe make another update, code update, and maybe with some date, right? And maybe say 10th of March 2022, something like that. Okay, so what is happening in this case is, this is an unorganized way. You cannot go back to you can go back to these previous thing if you will timestamp and all, but how much memory this is going to save, this is going to take, number one, that is the challenge. At the same time, this is very unorganized, and one person if he is working, that's fine. But if there are team members uh, in different geographical location, how this will happen, means how they will share, how they will work together. So this is something, when this kind of problem statement comes into picture, then the concept of version control system overall, people started thinking about having a kind of a system where we will be able to uh, control or mitigate these kind of challenges. Okay, so what they have done is that they have used database basically, and what uh, the developer used to do is that he used to okay. So whatever that guy used to do, right? He was whatever development he has done, he used to push and pull the code, the changes in the database. Okay, so he started to manage the files in database. Good, much better than this solution when there were files and then it is in the hard drive getting managed there. Instead of that, database was used. This kind of system was called centralized system. Okay, so this is called centralized, this version control system. Okay, so different versions you started to keep in database, and then you used to, whenever there is a change you do, you put it in the database, and then you fetch it from there. The problem with this is again the dependency on this database server. If this fails, or this system on which the user is basically on the same system it is, so it's a challenge. And then due to it, people started to think about some other way of managing this particular thing. Okay, but anyway, this is uh, much better. This is not centralized. This term is basically called local, right? So basically this is called local. Okay, local, because it is in the system, it is in the in their users machine. So that is the thing that is there. Okay, so far so good. Still there is an improvement from this particular mm, point. So now what they have done is they started thinking about something else, and then the centralized version control system came into picture. So here again, in this case above, there was only one user, and he has its own local database, and he used to put the changes there, okay, in the database basically. So for a personal management, this thing was good, but this is not at all a solution when you have to, there are multiple actors who are the part of that. Okay, so there are multiple users who are there. Actor means here developers, right? So there are multiple developers who are working on this stream bit. Okay, now what these guys need to do is that they need to put the changes in centralized system. Okay, so this is centralized. Make it a bit bigger. Okay, there is a centralized server, you can say, centralized database, you can say, and they started to put their files here in the centralized system. The advantage is different people can pull and push the changes there is one place where your changes will be there. It is not dependent upon that particular user machine basically. And so there are advantages, and multiple user can work together in this particular system. Again, better than the previous one when we had the local thing. Now we have a centralized case where multiple user can work together. Guys, sorry for bad drawings here, but at least just kind of trying to make things better for you. Okay, now let us go back to the next solution. Okay, now what is the next thing that happened, and that is called distributed version control system. And from here, when we started with Git, the term that we have used is distributed version control system. So version control system, we know that different code versions we want to kind of find out when who made the changes and all. So that is what we need to do. But in all the cases, when you say in the cases above, even in centralized and all, the change that we have actually, or we cannot fetch the previous commits and all, we can just have the latest version that's there. Maximum is, even if there is a failure in this centralized system, then it's there with other users. Yes, we can have something there at least, but we don't have that kind of feature of having to go back to a certain version of the code, right? Say three years before someone checked in a code, and I want to go back to that state. We will not be able to do it. That is one challenge, and that's why there was uh, there was a need to improve on the uh, version control system feature. At the same time, there is a need of having a kind of a system where we have the distributed. So then this distributed version control is there. So there is this system is distributed version control system that came into picture. And what is the advantage of this distributed version control system is, in distributed version control system, all the users have the code along with the changes. Okay, so whatever happened, even if any user has all the, you can say, history of the changes available in their system. Okay, so that's why it is distributed. So yes, there is a centralized you can say remote server and all, but distributed version control system are mostly local. Okay, so you have the whole history. When you get the code from the remote, um, you get the whole history as well along with the code. And that's why this kind of thing is important, because this is the most resilient thing to happen when you all these actors have the latest code available with them. Not only the latest code, but also all the changes, uh, the change history and everything, that is also available with all users. So overall, when you say distributed version control system, your code changes, that history and all that information, versioning information is available to all the users. Okay, so whenever a user will take the latest code, he has not only the latest code, along with that he has all the changes, and he can move back to any any state. Okay, so that is the biggest advantage of distributed version control system. Okay, good. Now how this why means how this came into picture basically. So let us go back to bit of idea, because bit of the background behind that means why this was needed in itself. Because if you will know why this is needed, okay, the kind of this version control system, then you will be able to understand. Otherwise it is just a command, right? And we will do that, we will do hands-on on that. So let us understand why this was needed in the first place. Okay, so let us do in page 2. Let us see it. I will say version control system. Okay, fine. So I don't know you how many of you know about this guy. The name was Linus Torvalds. Sorry for the spelling if I'm missing something. It is Linus Torvalds. Yeah, so Linus Torvalds is kind of biggest contributor of Linux kernel basically. Okay, so basically this guy, you can say, founder of Linux in general. So this guy was this and there was when they were working, and as you know, Linux is again open source tool. So basically when these guys were working on developing the Linux system, so initially for a long period of time they were working till you can say 1991. The development of this kernel started to happen from 1991 to, so 1991 they started working on developing the kernel, and till 2001. Okay, so they were using the traditional way, like in terms of terms of patches and files. Okay, so they were using this so they were sharing the files and everything, the old school way of doing that we have discussed, the zip file sharing together and then getting the later code based on that. Not a good way basically. So then in 2002 they started a tool called Bitkeeper. Okay, so what this Bitkeeper was, that this is a tool that it's a distributed version control system basically. It has all those feature. A good tool it was, but 2002 to 2005 they worked on this tool, and then the Bitkeeper's team said no, you need to they said that now this Bitkeeper is going to be paid. And then and from that perspective, from that scenario, they started thinking about developing their own version control system, a distributed version control system, and then Git came into picture. So this is a kind of a background that how this Git came. And there are other systems as well, like Git, like Subversion, Mercurial. There are tools which in market, but none of the tool are even able to compete with Git. So that's what the popularity the Git has basically. When you say Git, do not confuse with GitHub and other. GitHub are basically remote repositories, right? Remote hosting services. So it's like that. There are Bitbucket is there, similar to that. GitLab is there, similar to that. They have similar things. So those are hosting services. Okay, uh, the core of it is Git basically. Okay, Now let us come back to the overall concept. Okay, so we talked about these things. Let us talk about the benefits. What is important? What are the special things in Git? So the pros, what are the advantages? Features. So Git features. Number one, Git stores the snapshot, not the differences. Okay, so you can say clicking a kind of a clicking that a picture of that particular instance where when you do the commit, so it takes the snapshot of that particular instance. Okay, we will see to it how, but that is one thing, that is the advantage. uh, so snapshot means that along with that it has all the history and all the information, okay, related to the changes and all. Okay, so if even if you want any version 3 years back, what was the case, it will give you that version immediately. Okay, almost every operation is local. That is the second advantage, that almost every operation is local. Okay, at max, this hosting services like GitHub, remote repository, whatever you say, are used, yes, but the Git operations are mostly local operations. Okay, so you do your development in your local machine, you have your Git there, you have your all the history and everything there. You can get the the code that was historical, any code that that was there before you checked in. So that happened before that point, so all that information is there. So it's a, you can say, almost every operation is local, and that is the advantage. Another thing is integrity. The next thing is integrity. What integrity is all about? Basically, integrity is, as for example, Git has give me 1 minute. Okay, so Git has a checksum mechanism. So Git uses a checksum mechanism, SHA 256 it uses. So what happens, like whenever a file is created, the checksum value of that particular file uh, will be unique. Okay, so if someone will change the value, as for example, I'm sending a file to you, and if some hacker or due to that and file is got changed, and if if you know the checksum, that checksum value you can send to where it is this file is getting used, and then uh, it can be checked that that file is compromised or not by matching the checksum. So this has the integrity, so that it can be it cannot be compromised. Okay, so this is about feature, this is about history, this is about version control system, this is about the terms that we have seen here at the part of definition. So free, open source, we discussed about that. Distributed, we talked about it, and version control system overall. Yeah, good. So far so good. Let us see that how to download. I'm not going to go through this whole download process. You guys can do it easily, so that we will spend time on. So Windows, Mac, Linux, there are different things, and for Windows, click here, 64-bit setup, you have the setup, and download it and execute it. Okay, so that's it. Overall, that's not any environment variable or anything that is needed. Hello, can you tell me, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Okay, because there is some network issues happening, it seems like that. Okay, so once you will download Git, you will get Git bash as well. It's a kind of a command line tool, and it takes the Unix commands, so it's a kind of a more closer to Unix basically. You can use PowerShell, you can use your command line, anything. Mostly the commands are going to be same. Okay, now once you will have the Git setup, okay, Git available to your system. Now what you need to do is that, as for example, you create a folder, and then you do, let us name it as devops git session, for example, and let us move to this directory. Okay, so cd, okay, now if you will do git status, this will give you an error. It says not a git repository or any of the parent directory. Okay, so what git has is there is one .git file that is there. This is the kind of a core file, kind of heart of git basically, and it contains all your snapshots and everything. Okay, so what you need to do to have the git available, and when you will go to this particular folder, basically right now there is nothing and there is a hidden items still I checked in. So normally it may be possible if you don't have this .git is hidden. Okay, so if you haven't, and you are not able to see .git, then check the checkbox hidden and these hidden items. But still, because git is not initialized on this particular folder, that is the reason why you are getting an error. Okay, so git init, so that is the command for initializing a git repository. Okay, so git init. So what it has done, initialized empty git repository of this thing. Now if you see, now you have .git folder here. Okay, this is the first command. So basically we have seen two commands. Git status will tell you that what is the current state. Now if you say git status, so it will say that on branch master. Okay, we will talk about this branch thing. No commits yet. Fine, we will talk about the commits. And what it is saying, nothing to commit, create copy files and use git add to track. Okay, fine. Now let us add a particular a file here on this folder. So let us see what name, feature one maybe, or I can say Okay. So I just added a file.
Thanks for watching. Want to study further? Join our training programs today.